as we get going. Okay, so I'm going to call to order the meeting, the Finance Committee meeting of Monday, March 1st. Let's see, 4:09 p.m. for the minutes. We are now using Zoom webinar for meetings, which allows for the public to participate in meetings as an attendee. George, I will ask you to go on mute, please, while you're doing that. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. People registering to be an attendee must use their names, otherwise they will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. The YouTube chat will no longer be enabled, and all questions should be directed through the chair. As a preliminary matter, this is Denise Cronow, Chair of the Nantucket Finance Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. So let me do it in the order in which I see you. Jill Veith.
Aye.
Thank you. Joe Grouse.
Aye.
Chris Kowacki. George Harrington.
Aye.
Thank you. Denise Cronow, aye. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, and I will do it again in the order in which I see you. Brian Turbot.
Present.
Thank you. Rick Sears.
Here.
Libby Gibson.
Present.
Ken Bogrand.
Present.
And okay, good. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Let me go through this. John Giorgio.
Here.
Brian Riley.
Here. Here, I'm here.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's see. That's the anticipated speakers that are we're just one page. Mr. Mandel.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Good evening. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public meeting gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment as previously noted. Please note the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. I'm now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting them each to provide any further comments, questions, or motions. Remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until we yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. And if members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call. And one further reminder, if you are participating, make sure we can see your full name because we need full names for the minutes. And then, yes, okay, may I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Jill.
Aye.
Thank you. Joe.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
George. George, I'll take your wave as an aye.
Aye.
Chris. Thank you, Chris. Okay. Now, the next item is public comments, but before we do that, we're going to go to when we posted the agenda today, we posted the articles that we are going to discuss during this meeting. And so is there any public comments not related to any of the citizen warrant articles? Brian or Rick, has anyone raising their hands? No. Okay, then I will close the public comment part. There's no minutes to be adopted. Committee reports. Like the last time, does any one of the committee participants have any committee reports they want to share? If so, raise your hand and I will call on you. I see no hands raised. So, okay.
Denise,
Oh, Jill, go ahead, Jill.
I was just gonna let you know we completed our work, so I know you'll have your report on time and the recommendations when you ask for them. But
Okay,
we
perfect.
completed our meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jill. George, there's a lot of background noise where you are, so I would ask you to please go mute. Thank you, George. Okay, so prior to going through the article, so how it's going to work, and I sent you all an email, but I'll reiterate, and John Giorgio and or Brian Riley can jump in and correct it. I'm going to open it for public comment for any of the prior year articles that we had already made motions on. So, for example, Bruce Mandel will make a comment, and then after, I'll ask if there's any other public comments. And then after that, we will go through, I will call the articles one by one. And if any one of you want to reopen the article, then you make a motion to do so, and then we take a vote by roll call. So that's how we're going to go through the process. And in the agenda, you'll see it's on page 2. And then after that, we do the basically this year's articles, which will be Ken. So with that, Mr. Mandel, I will turn it over to you, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm seeking a favorable motion from FinCom for an amended version of what is now Article 75. It's gone through several numbers and variations, and the document I sent to you says Article 73, but it's now 75. An article was originally prepared as a result of my participation on the town's work group that was created to implement the new single-use plastic law. So what we're reviewing today is a small clarification to an existing chapter 124 or 125, however it's going to be end up with the town code. I'm getting a lot of background noise. I think it's from George. Oh, thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
This pertains only to commercial distributors and vendors.
George, you keep going off mute. There you go. Thank you.
It doesn't apply to individuals.
I'm sorry, it's just not going on and off.
When the single-use plastic chapter of our code became law, town administration formed a work group to help the commercial stakeholders to work through the law to implement. And the work group includes Libby Gibson, Roberto Santa Maria, Janet Pilkey, Christy Ferrantella, Rita Higgins, Graham Durovich, Rachel Hobart from Remain Nantucket, Florencia Rulo, the public outreach manager for the town, Verna Gonzalez from Remain, Emily Mulligan, and myself. And the work group held several public forums, and we met with the community stakeholders whose input led to the need to refine parts of the law. We met with Stop and Shop local managers. We met with their corporate people. We met with Cumbies, our food and product distributors, Disco, US Food, who both confirmed that there were sustainable alternative products that were readily available, and they discussed some logistical issues they had. We held trade forums Builders Association, the Real Estate Board, Great Harbor Yacht Club, caterers, restaurants, hotels, B&Bs, bodegas. In response to the comments and suggestions from these stakeholders, it became apparent that a few more definitions were needed, as were some clarifications to the list of items. The stakeholders were certainly prepared to supply the sustainable alternatives that there are for each of these products and items, and they made some suggestions to make the logistics process and their warehousing more efficient. So in addition, and this is the important part here, during the work group meetings in October of 2019, town administration felt that we might want to merge the biodegradable plastic section of the code and its associated Board of Public Works Regulation number 71 into the new single-use regulation. So in order to address that, the citizens article was requested by the work group because we didn't know if the select board would be offering an article to accomplish these things. So I drafted up the citizens article. It was reviewed and edited by the members of the work group, and it was submitted for inclusion in the in November 2019 to meet the submission deadline. So after the citizens article was submitted, town later decided, well, they didn't want to merge the biodegradable plastic section into the new single-use regulation. That's the reason Article 75 now needs to be amended to remove the lengthy and complicated language that I used to address the merger of the biodegradable plastic section of the code and the Board of Public Works regulation into the new single-use regulation. When we remove all that language, the result is the short amended article being presented to the FinCom today. So I'm requesting that FinCom provide a positive motion recommending the approval of this short amended Article 75 that's presented to you today. I don't know, perhaps something to the effect of the Finance Committee moves that Chapter 125 of the code is amended as follows, along with that language that says that all the highlighted and underlined stuff is not going to be included in the law. So anyway, that's why I'm here, and I appreciate the time, and I hope that explanation was clear.
Thank you, Bruce. Now, members of Finance Committee, any comments or questions for Bruce? I don't see a single hand. George, or John, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just feel duty bound to inform the Finance Committee of an emerging issue with respect to these types of bylaws. And that has to do with the fact that the bylaw as currently being proposed would ban nip bottles. And as far as I know, the town of Falmouth passed such a bylaw, and it's still under review at the Attorney General's office. There's been quite a bit of industry opposition to that. And depending upon what happens with the Attorney General's review, there very well could be, a legal challenge to that bylaw, even if the Attorney General approves it. So I think you need to be aware of that issue. The other thing is, if the Finance Committee wants to make a positive motion, I think it would behoove the committee to ask either Brian or I to draft up a motion that, as Bruce says, eliminates a lot of the verbiage in the warrant and we'll get it down to a short, tight, concise bylaw amendment for folks to understand.
Thank you, John. Is Finance Committee allowed to make such a substantive change to an existing citizens warrant article?
So you can't change the article before it goes on the warrant. Nobody can unless the petitioners file a revised version. But once it gets to town meeting, it's no longer the petitioner's article, it's town meeting's article. And anyone, and obviously that includes the Finance Committee, can make a motion for a different wording than what appears in the warrant, as long as the moderator declares that the motion is within the scope of the article.
Madam Chair, it's Bruce Mandel. You're muted, Denise.
George, I have to either ask you to not come in by computer or to call in, because when your computer is on and you're unmuted, we can't hear anybody else. I'm sorry. Okay. So John, my question was, is it seems like it would be a substantive change that Finance Committee was recommending in conjunction with the motion as Bruce is suggesting. So it's one thing to change a date or potentially change a position or, a sentence, but this is a lot of change to the article. And I just, and just want to make sure that if we were to do this, that there wouldn't be any issues with that.
No, I think it would, as I indicated, it would be subject to a ruling by the moderator that whatever is proposed is within the scope of what was printed in the warrant. And I think you could certainly make that a good argument to that effect, because you're not adding anything. You're just subtracting, as Bruce said, a lot of verbiage that is really not germane.
Well, John, we are adding G through L. So we're adding 6 new categories of things to be excluded.
Yes, well, that was in the warrant.
That was in the original article.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to just address one thing about the nip bottles. Thank you. We specifically put obviously it's a huge litter issue on the island, and that's one of the problems. And the clean team spends, anyway, you get the point. It's the reason that it's worded with, and it says plastic and glass nip bottles with capacities up to 200 milliliters. And what this does is it would eliminate the small, tiny bottles, but the larger bottles would still be available. And of course, the industry would not like to have this because it's a revenue source and whatnot. Now, John, if you think this is going to be a problem, while we're sitting here right now, we could just strike line K.
I'm just, Madam Chair, I'm just raising it as an issue for the Finance Committee to consider, because if there's a bylaw that could potentially be subject to a legal challenge, I think the Finance Committee needs to understand the potential cost to the town of defending that. Whether or not Bruce wants to eliminate nip bottles, that's entirely up to him, and we certainly could do that as part of a motion.
I have no objection to doing that if it's going to relieve the town of a potential liability issue regarding defending a potential lawsuit. We faced the same question originally when we went with the water bottles. We thought the industry was going to push back and sue, and they did push back, but they kind of dropped it when they saw everybody else in the world going along with this. So I will take your concern to heart, and I'll be willing to just strike item K right here.
Well, Bruce, my suggestion would be, let's wait and see what the Attorney General does with the Falmouth bylaw. I believe that decision is due sometime in March.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So since you can make that decision, Bruce, before town meeting, which will be after the Attorney General renders the ruling.
Oh, thank you. I understand. So let's just leave it as written now. It's a very short amended article, and I hope that we'll get a favorable motion from you folks. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, John and Brian. Bruce, a question for you. On the letter I, cellulose acetate and any other type of plastic fiber cigarette filters, do all cigarette filters have plastic acetate in them?
This is Bruce. My research is no. A lot of them do have it. It's a very toxic component. It's the #1 most littered item on our island. And there are alternatives. Good grief, when I lived in Kentucky, there was even a tobacco filter a filter made of tobacco, but there are paper filters and other filters. I can imagine the smokers on the island not being pleased with this, having to switch to either a non-filtered cigarette or a paper filtered cigarette. But this line and this concept is to reduce a tremendous litter problem. These filters are eaten by animals and birds and kills them. They're just a pain in the neck to pick up. And the idea, along with some of these other things, is to clean up the island and to protect the aquifer. The toxic elements in those filters leaches into the ground if they're not picked up. And it's just, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Peter?
Yeah, John, has anybody done any studies on how much money, or has anybody else done this with the cigarettes? Because I'm trying to see how much money people are going to lose in town because they can't sell the cigarettes.
I have not done that research, I'm sorry. I don't know of any other place that has done this in the United States.
So we're going to be the leader in this.
Well, we were the leader in the bottles too and the other things, but this plastic, I think I sent you some literature about the cigarette filters, and it's been done in Europe, and they've accommodated and grown accustomed to it, of course. So I'm not aware of any research here on it.
Listen, I would be just as happy if we outlawed cigarettes totally, but my concern is the revenue of the stores in town. They've had a tough year, and maybe this should be delayed a year.
Well, the effective date is delaying it into June of 2022. That is in the.
That's true. That's true.
Any follow-up questions? Peter?
No,
Anything?
I'm fine.
Thank you. Joe?
So it strikes me that our options here, I guess I was a little confused. So the short article is the 2 pages. It says amended Article A73 in our meeting minutes, right? Okay, so our options really, we're not gonna reopen. Looking at the last year's, it's a take no action was our decision last year, correct? So from what John says, I mean, we can certainly discuss, and if we're all comfortable with these 2 pages, all we really can do is be prepared at town meeting to offer a motion to strike all the additional language in the current what's in the warrant for Article 75 and substitute this language. Is that correct?
We have the
We're not going to change our decision from to take no action.
We have the option today, after we hear all public comments, Joe. I'm going to call each prior year article, and if someone on Article 75 says they want to reopen it and we have a majority who's willing to reopen it, then we can do as you've just described.
May I
And do
comment?
it today.
Right. Okay. But I thought from what John said is we really can't change the warrant until town meeting itself. So I'm with you. We can go through, and at 75 we can change our vote, but
No, our motion,
the language of the warrant really won't change until town meeting floor. Is that correct?
and I'm looking, John can jump in, but my understanding is let's say we decide to reopen it. There's a majority that votes to reopen it. And there's a majority that says it's a favorable motion with the following wording of the article. So,
Okay.
and that's why all my questions before about how much of a change it is compared to what it used to be. And so
Okay.
that is in our purview today as we go,
Okay.
as I call the articles later. Is that correct, John?
Yes, you can never change the wording of an article, but you may make a different motion. And so when you look at your booklet, the first thing is the Finance Committee recommendation, which is the motion, and that can be different than what's in the article
Okay.
that follows.
Okay.
Now, but I do have one question for Libby. When are you printing the motion booklet? Do you have a date for that yet? Because ideally you would want to get this into, if you do have a positive motion, you would want to try to get this into the motion booklet rather than having to do a technical amendment.
Yep. So it's, the FinCom should be adopting all final motions on April 1st or earlier. Then the select board reviews its own comments and the whole thing goes to the printer on or about Friday, April 16th. It's got to be done by then.
Madam Chair, it's Bruce Mandel. I just wanted to address Joe's comment.
Please.
The reason that I requested to take no action on the prior article was because the town came forward with its own article number 72 that made some revisions to the bylaw. And what I had previously written was conflicted with it. And I needed time, and we needed time in the work group to deconflict it. So the best course of action was for me to ask you to take no action, and then at the town meeting, call it, which I did, so that we could be sitting here today reviewing a shorter amended article.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Any other
Thanks, Bruce.
comments? Chris?
Was 72 adopted?
Yes.
Yes.
And sorry, I don't have these notes in front of me. Did we make a comment to our take no action last year? Does anybody know?
No, it was just take no action, as I recall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the members of FinCom? Okay. Is there anyone else at the meeting today who wants to speak on any of the other articles? I don't see a hand raised. Okay. So I will go through and call them one by one. And if anyone wants to, on FinCom, wants to us to reconsider our prior year motion, then we can do so. And I think you all have, I will, hold on a second, let me grab my notes and I will read out what we had motioned last year, just in case anybody needs a reminder and doesn't have it in front of them. In case anybody wants to know, I'm like queen of the binder and sticky tabs here to keep everything in straight. All right, Article 34, appropriation for incineration of solid waste. We had motion not to adopt. Does anyone want to call this article? Raise your hand. Nope. Okay. Thank you. Article 35, legal opinion for beach access. Motion not to adopt. Does anyone want to call this article? Nope. Thank you. Article number 36, appropriation for hazardous waste. Motion not to adopt. No one wants to call the article. Article number 37, reestablish Parks and Recs Department. Motion not to adopt. No hands raised. Article 52, zoning map change, R10 to CN3 Cobble Court. FinCom supports the planning board motion. Okay. Article 53, zoning map change, VR to VN, Pulpus Road and Chatham Road. FinCom supports the planning board motion. Okay. Article 63, zoning bylaw amendment, commercial mid-island height restriction. Motion not, FinCom supports the planning board motion. Okay. Article 64, zoning bylaw amendment, home rule petition, coastal erosion liability. FinCom supports the planning board motion. Article 65, affordable housing requirements. Motion not to adopt. Article 66, public property damage, take no action. Article 67, prohibiting roundabouts near school, motion not to adopt. Article 69, complaints committee, motion not to adopt. Article 75, single-use plastics, take no action. Okay, stays the same. Article 76, bylaw amendment, bicycles, right-of-way, motion to adopt. Article 77, bylaw amendment, bicycles, buffer zone, motion to adopt. Article 78, bylaw amendment, bicycle accident database, motion not to adopt. Article 79, bylaw amendment, outdoor lighting, motion not to adopt. Article 80, bylaw, noise bylaw amendment, gas-powered leaf blowers, motion not to adopt. Article 85, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Sewer District Map Change, 154R, Cliff Road. Motion take no action. Article 86, bylaw amendment, Sewer Board of Sewer Commissioners, Sewer District Map Change, 18 Kimball Avenue, motion not to adopt. Article 99, real estate acquisition, 114 Orange Street, motion to adopt. Article 100, real estate conveyance, 114 Orange Street, motion to adopt. Article 101, real estate acquisition, 64 North Liberty Street, motion to adopt.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Chris,
then revisit 75 and make a motion to open debate on it.
so make your motion, please, Chris.
I move that we, whatever the motion's supposed to be, I move that we reconsider our motion on Article 75.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, by roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Stephen? Denise, aye. Okay. All right, so we reopened Article 75.
I just thought it was worth a little more conversation, deliberation on the board. I think probably what's going on is if people are feeling like I am, it's just gotten so confusing at this point that perhaps people are thinking maybe we should just have this come back clean. Because if it's confusing for us, it's probably going to be incredibly confusing on town meeting floor. And I'm just wondering if I wanted to get the sense of my committee colleagues here on that, because I don't sense that people are largely against it conceptually. But I thought it was worth taking people's temperature.
Graham, I see you, but I'll take you when I open public comments for this. Okay, thank you. Any other FinCom comments?
Can I ask, is there something in this many-page article that talks about coffee cups, for example, the tops on coffee cups?
This is Bruce. Am I allowed to address that?
Yes, please, Bruce, go ahead.
Okay, yes, it does. The article already talks, item F, single-use, non-recyclable beverage pods.
Okay, and does anybody know, is there a coffee cup cover that you can buy that's paper?
Yes, there are degradable ones, compostable ones. There are also reusable stainless steel ones, reusable plastic ones. Stop and Shop has done a fantastic job of stocking their shelves with these products. And people are buying them, and I haven't heard of any adverse comments on them.
I'm really thinking, commercial, Bruce. I'm not thinking
Peter,
personal.
Peter, can I get you to stop for a second? George,
Yeah.
honestly, George, you can't be on. I'm sorry. Either that or you have to find some way to go mute, because when you're on, we honestly can't hear anyone else. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay.
So individuals can use these pods in their Keurig machines and their other machines. They're totally compatible, and I haven't heard of anybody having a problem with it. So
I wasn't talking about the pods. I'm talking about the plastic cups, the plastic lids that go on coffee cups.
oh, those also have been, they're part of the item C that has already been adopted into the law.
It's
Okay,
drinking cups and lids, Peter, and C.
And remember, these are single-use plastic items.
I understand, but I'm just trying to figure if I've ever seen a coffee cup that I've gotten to go that didn't have a plastic top.
So if I could ask Jason, I see that you're on, if you wouldn't mind, as your former role as the owner of the Handlebar, to speak to what you did in this respect.
We went to compostable lids, but and Graham could talk about this, but there's an issue of how they decompose or not in our landfill or through our digester. So any changes that we would make, I would just ask for time for the small business to adapt, and for the US Foods and Perkins of the world to bring in new products.
Mm-hmm.
Graham, you had your hand raised before.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, I can speak to that as well, but I wanted to perhaps clarify all the confusion. Perhaps there's a lot that happened that led up to Bruce being before you today, and it might help to go over that very quickly. So back in October 2018 at special town meeting, the original plastics bylaw was voted into effect, or that it would go into effect on June 1st, 2020. And then at town meeting last year, before June 1st, 2020, the town made some amendments that were voted on favorably that went into effect. So there were just some small amendments. Instead of 6-pack yolks, it said all pack flexible yolks, just small little things like that to kind of flesh out the bylaw a little bit more. Bruce is here before you today because he also put forth an amendment back then, in which he recalled that you've talked about today, to add items, and that's what you have before you today. And the original version that Bruce put forward had a lot of extraneous language that you've talked about. So basically what he's asking for is to have this simplified version. It doesn't change what's already gone into effect. The two, basically there's the original and the amended thing that the town put forward. It's just, it cleans up what he's putting forward with the additional items that he would like to go forward. Does that help? I just heard a lot of confusion about that.
Thank you, Graham. That's very helpful. Any other comments from Finance Committee? Joe, were you waving your hand?
Just, and I know Bruce went through this at the beginning of the meeting, and I apologize. Part of what I'm confused at is when I look at Article 75 in my copy of the warrant, which is, still like 6 columns long, and then you look at the 2 pages, that's the shortened single-use plastics ban version. So could Bruce sort of, or maybe it's Graham, just say, reiterate what is it that's being carved out to boil it down to this shorter version?
I'll give it a try again, Joe. The intent previously was to try to merge the biodegradable packaging law and the associated Regulation 71 into the single-use plastic bylaw. So that required a lengthy description to remove that language from the town code and to remove the regulation from the Board of Public Works, and then to insert similar language into the plastic use law section. When the town decided they didn't want to merge the biodegradable packaging regulations into the single-use plastic law, all of that language has to be removed from that lengthy article that you were just talking about. And that's what this amended version does. It deletes all of that language, and it only leaves 4 definitions that need to be made that we learned about while we spoke to the stakeholders. And it adds back some items. There's 6 items there that were in our original concept, but when we had the meeting with the moderator and the town council on the very original article, we decided that it would be more prudent to take some of the items out and add them back later. For example, item G, flushable wipes. That's a huge problem for the sewer department and David Gray's people. They clog up the equipment, causing the equipment to need to be taken out of service while those things are hand-picked out of the sewage equipment. And the intent was to not have those plastic fiber wipes clog up the sewer equipment. And the same with the plastic stick ear swabs. They make ear swabs that don't have these plastic sticks. I'm sure you've seen them. And Stop and Shop has no problem providing them. And Huggies makes flushable wipes, so to speak, that don't contain all of those problem plastic fibers and whatnot. So this is an attempt to try to help the sewer department and achieve some of our goals. And it's the same thing with the other items that are litter items and recyclable items that are problems. And Graham could probably speak to this, but what we heard when Rob McNeil made his presentation to you guys, and he talked about some of the costs of the baling of the plastics and shipping them off, cost us about $200 a ton to remove those plastics from the island to find a place for them. And there are several thousand tons of those a year. So the more of these non-recyclable plastics that we can get out of our system, I think the better off the island is going to be and could even save some money.
Thank you, Bruce. Libby, you have your hand up, and then I'll go to
Thank
John.
you. Yes, Bruce, I think that what is trying to be said here is just very simply, what are the items that we are talking about including versus the ones that were in 75? Not all your extra language, we know that's going to go away. So I think you kind of attempted to do that just now, but I would suggest that if the committee is going to put in a motion to clarify, that town council write it up and we circulate it around and you talk about it again on another day to finalize it.
Thank you, Libby. John?
Yes, well, I was going to say the same thing. We should take the existing bylaw that's in the code, and that includes all of the amendments that I believe that Graham mentioned, and then just create a shaded, the way we typically do bylaws, show the additional language and the strikeout language. That's what I would recommend. So we start from the existing bylaw, what's currently in the code.
Okay. Thank you, John.
And we can certainly do that
Okay.
if that's what the finance committee would like.
Yes, I would like that. And we have 12 more meetings in March, so we would have plenty of time to review that language at that time and then come back. Chris?
Yeah, may I just ask, is the bylaw as this is intended to be presented, does that have sort of unanimity of support from the plastic ban work group?
Bruce?
I believe it does. These items have been reviewed and edited. The definitions have been reviewed and edited. To be honest with you guys, the list of new items was longer. And at the suggestion of the work group, we've culled it down to these. But as I said before, if anybody has any agita with any of these issues, we shouldn't let that stand into the overriding intent here, which is to help clean up the landfill, protect the aquifer, and rid our island of some nasty litter items and some items that foul up the sewage equipment at the wastewater treatment plant.
Are there any other questions from the members of FinCom in respect of this? Jill?
It seems to me that I understand he's amending this, but are we going to be doing this every year, Bruce? Or are we going to have an amendment and add another product and another product and another product? Is that sort of how you want to do this going forward?
No, Jill. My original intent was to include all of these, but I took some advice that worked out well. And the intent was to add these back later. Later is now. My thought process is that if something comes up later that someone else or any of the community members want to get into, rather than raise any red flags here, but we're having a lot of problems with PFAS now, and some of those PFAS are in plastic products, but my intent is not to come back again. This has been an arduous task for the work group and for me, and I'm getting along in years, and I think that if we get this done, we can all be proud of this.
Okay, yeah, I just also want to clarify again as well, just to remind maybe myself more than anyone, but all these things can still be purchased online and delivered here.
That's true. This law applies only to the commercial sale, distribution, and use. It doesn't stop people from going on Amazon, from going off island and buying the stuff and loading up their cars and vehicles, bringing it over. But we hope that people will understand the intent of this to protect the island and not do that. Any bylaw, any regulation can be circumvented. This is a personal responsibility, and the industry has thrown the responsibility for recycling and composting and everything on the end users and the towns, and it's very costly. And the intent here has always been to get the distributors and vendors to take back some of the responsibility, which thankfully they have.
Graham, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to speak to that, Jill, your question about that. So yeah, while people can of course go online and buy that, and some people probably do, we do waste sorts twice a year at the DPW. And so we take 200 bags of household trash, and sort them into different categories. And we started doing this in October of 2018 when this was voted on. So we actually created a category for that any of these 2020 plastics were thrown into as one barrel, and we would weigh those. And so I have that for these different waste sorts over the years, and it's remarkable the drop. There's virtually nothing anymore of the 2020 banned plastics from the waste sorts that's started in the late summer of 2020, so after the bylaw went into effect, and then also in the January one that we had, the waste sort that we had in the winter this year, a couple months ago. So in the 2 waste sorts post the ban, we've seen very little. So I don't see many people perhaps going online and buying it, at least, you know, compared to the data that we have in front of us. And I know we're always trying to get people to buy local. So just something to consider.
Okay, on that, can you tell me, Graham, do you recycle everything that you can recycle, you recycle here? Or do we have enough capacity to recycle everything here? And how much is sent off?
So anything that's recycled is sent off. Anything that's not going to turn into dirt or is in dirt already, basically, we try to send it off. The exception is what goes into the composter that is non-biodegradable. And that's why we have the separate waste stream for compostable waste, and trying to get everything else that's not, you know, breaking down to dirt into another waste stream that we can ship off. It's not directly related to this bylaw at all. But
yeah, well, that's why I just wanted to know how much do you think that it's been reduced, how much we are sending off? I think that's what you're saying by do the sampling, but
those are 2 different things entirely. Let me just think real quick how to break this apart.
What I understood you to say is that the trash you're going through, you feel like there's a lot less plastic-based trash or of things that we banned in starting in 2020. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, the things that we banned in 2020, there's a lot less of that now.
Right, and so are there a lot less trucks being sent off with products that need to be recycled?
Okay, so let's go back further. The items in the original bylaw, some of them we would see in the environment and others not so much, but when we looked at the waste sorts for just the MSW, like their basic household trash, it was about 5%, I believe. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was a very low percentage of, you know, the total waste stream by weight. You're thinking about food that we're weighing, and then these plastic items, which are already light. So it was a very small fraction to start with. And so there's not a remarkable difference in what's getting shipped off. But I will say that the items that are in Bruce's current, what he would like to be added, if voted favorably at town meeting and adopted, these are items that are very prevalent in our environment as litter. He has definitely picked up on the ones that are definitely an environmental hazard, as we've seen Clean Team, Litter Derby, etc. He's picked the ones. Whether they can get through with the complications that John Giorgio brought up is something else, but these are definitely problematic items.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, did you raise your hand again? No, okay, just making sure. Okay, so at this point, we will be obviously discussing it further and making a motion once John and Brian Riley have come back to us with a proposed wording for what a motion could be and the wording that goes with it. Because I am still a bit confused personally as to if we came to motion to adopt providing XYZ or something. Again, I'd need to see John, what you propose, and then I'll understand it better, because it is a significant difference than what is in the warrant right now. Go ahead, John.
So while you've been talking, I've been looking at this, the bylaw online, and Bruce, I had 2 questions for you. One, you have proposed additional language in terms of the purpose of the bylaw. beyond what currently exists in the bylaw. Did you want to add those purposes to your motion?
Those are in the section definitions and purpose. And
You-
those are-
No, you have added additional language in terms of the purpose of the bylaw. And it goes well beyond what's in the existing bylaw. Did you want to add? I'm looking at page 50 of the warrant. There are, you have some underlying language that has findings and purposes for the bylaw. Are you proposing that be included?
No, that's all being removed by this amended version.
Okay. And secondly, we have to line up your new definitions with what you've done in terms of the additional items that are going to be prohibited. I won't waste the committee's time on that, but Bruce, you and I should have an offline conversation about what definitions you want to include. I believe you said 4, but I think there may be more than that. So you and I will have to talk.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought I tried to capture them, but if we need to tweak them, I'm sure we can.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to put a close to this for today. And so with that, thank you, Bruce. Thank you for participating. We appreciate it. And the next item on our agenda is actually item number 7, which I had skipped over by mistake. I promise, Ken, we're going to get to you. You're patiently sitting there, but I know how much you love FinCom, so I don't think it's a loss of your time. And item number 7 was, it's a public hearing section on any of the town warrant articles. So if there's anyone on, any member of the public that wants to speak about any of the articles, we have them scheduled, all the articles scheduled for deliberation and motions in future upcoming days. We don't have any scheduled for today, further ones, except for the 3 that Ken will be talking to us about in respect to the CPC. But if anyone wants to speak, if you could raise your hand, and then otherwise I will go right to Ken. I see no hands raised. So Ken, please. Now, Finance Committee, we've already talked about Articles 28 and 33. And Ken, I would like to confirm that nothing has changed on either 28 or 33 from the last time we spoke to you about it.
That is correct.
Thank you. And so therefore, I am looking for, does anyone else on FinCom have a comment or question in respect of Articles 28, which is the appropriation for fiscal year 2021 Budget Community Preservation Committee, and fiscal year 30, or boy, fiscal year 33. How time flies when you're sitting at FinCom. Fiscal Article 33, Community Preservation Committee, fiscal year 21 budget transfers. Are there any questions for Ken about either one of those? And if not, may I have a motion on the first Article 28?
Motion to adopt?
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. By roll call in the order in which I see you. Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
I,
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you. May I have a motion on Article 33?
Move to adopt.
Thank you. May I have a second?
second,
Thank you. Again, in the order in which I see you. Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
I,
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Both articles adopted unanimously. Article 81, Ken, is a new one. If you would speak to us about that, please.
Yes, this goes back to try and fix something that was originally intended when the CPC was set up, that there would be staggered terms so that 3 of the members would be up for election each year. Because of some confusion at the time, the 2 at-large members ended up being elected in the same year for 3-year terms. And so what happens is that we don't end up having a third of the committee turning over each year. So working with John Giorgio, we came up with the language that's in front of you, that we'll elect the 2 people for 3-year terms, with the one that has and the object of the exercise is to then, the one that has the most votes will get a 3-year term, and the person that has the second most votes will get a 2-year term. And so after a period of rollovers, we will finally have them on an alternating basis. And again, the CPC, a third of it in each of the categories turning over each year, or eligible to be turned over each year. So that's the purpose behind it. And it was with a lot of really terrific research and work from John and his team that put this together, that we were able to figure out how to do this.
Thank you, Ken. Finance Committee, oh, John, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, maybe I've lost this, but is this a public hearing on this
Yes.
article? So you should open the public hearing. This is a technicality.
Okay,
And when you're done, then you close the public hearing.
okay, all right. So I will open the public hearing on this article. Is any member of the public like to speak to this? I see no hands raised. I will close the public hearing. Thank you, John. And now I will open it to Finance Committee. To any comments or questions for Ken? No? Okay. May I have a motion?
Motion to accept article, whatever the number was, as written,
83
83.
or 81, sorry.
No, 81.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Second, okay. And as I always forget each time, any further discussion from Finance Committee before we take the vote? Any further discussion on the motion? I always forget to do that. Okay, in which case, Joe,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
thank you, Denise, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
if I understand what you just did correctly, you voted to adopt Article 32, which is the fiscal 2022 CPC article. Is that correct?
no, we did 28 and 33.
Okay, well, Article 28 is actually the Special Stabilization Fund for Substance Abuse efforts.
Oh, these are the old numbers.
Okay.
Oops, all right, sorry,
Can I make a motion to reconsider our vote on Article 28, please?
yes, and,
Second.
okay. Sorry, I got the numbering changed on almost everything except for this. Okay, so,
Go ahead with that, and then I would ask you to withhold your motion because Article 32 has a math error in it, and we need to rewrite the motion because one of the columns that was submitted in the citizens warrant article does not add up.
okay then, so, we're now, we have a motion to reconsider. We have a second on articles. I'm going to do them combined, 28 and 33, because they're both incorrect.
That was my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And we have a second, so now roll call. Joe,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Denise, aye. Okay, so Brian, what you've just told me is that we will be holding off on both of these until the next meeting?
Yes, we will provide you corrected motions for you to act on for the CPC articles.
Okay.
Brian, was there, I thought there was only a mistake in one of them, not both of them.
There's a mistake in 32. I think 33 is okay. So if you wanted to adopt 33 as written, you could. 32 has the math error in it.
Now you're going to force me, I have to check in my book. Now I have to look in my book because now I'm getting, okay, just let me make sure that the article is the article. So you're saying that 33 and its numbering is correct as is?
Yes, which is the fiscal 2021 budget transfers. That is correct. There's no issue with that one whatsoever.
Okay,
Sorry for the confusion, Madam Chair.
okay, it happens. Oh, yeah, 28 is not the one. All right. Okay, so can I get a motion I'm sorry. Could I get a motion for Article 33, please?
Oh, motion to adopt Article 33 as.
Second,
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion before I take the vote? Okay. Joe,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise,
Aye.
aye. Okay, 33 passes as written. Okay. So I've asked twice now for any other articles today that people want to discuss, and I do, as this is the public hearing for the warrant, I do not see any hand raised. Okay, so the date of our next meeting is tomorrow, March 2nd at 4 o'clock again. And on the schedule for tomorrow's article review is Article 70, the Select Board article, bylaw amendment noise. 71, Jack Zemicki, bylaw amendment noise, and he attended Finance Committee on December 10th, if you all recall. 72, bylaw amendment, Council for Human Services. 73, Select Board bylaw amendment animals. And 74, Select Board for the Airport Commission, rental car bylaw amendment, airport town. 82, bylaw amendment, chapter 127, streets and sidewalks, road construction, and Kevin Kuster attended FinCom on February 4th. And lastly, 96, charter amendment, section 2.5C, town meeting warrants. And Thomas Beretta attended FinCom on February 4th, just to remind everyone. And then just to look ahead this week, we have another meeting on Thursday, again at 4 o'clock. And it is for Article 90 bylaw licensing of short-term rentals. So that's our week's agenda. Is there any other, we have any other business item? Is there any other business? Chris?
Yeah, can I just ask a question? I'm looking at a spreadsheet called 2021 ATM warrant article tracking. Is there a newer version of this? Am I looking at an old version? This is the one that has the CPC article not numbered correctly.
Chris, we'll take that offline, please.
Okay.
I sent it out last Thursday. So
A newer version.
I sent one last Thursday. So if it wasn't one you got last Thursday, then it's not the new version.
Thank you.
Mhm. And it could have been incorrect because it's what I printed from. So it's incorrect on, anyway. Okay,
One more question, Denise, sorry.
Jill? Yep.
For the select board and planning board articles, do we have their motions as well, or we just have their
Yeah, we don't
approval?
review the plan, as just as a reminder, everyone, we don't review planning board any zoning articles until the planning board has made their motions on them. And then what will happen is Andrew and Leslie will join us and then take us through the planning board's motions like last year.
Okay.
So, and that's scheduled right now for March 15th. And then the select board, some of their, for example, we're going to look at their bylaw amendment animals on this. So yes, we do have their motions on that. So we will take a look at that. And some of the other ones we do as they come up in due course. But yeah, the select board, Libby can correct me, the select board's already made all their motions on their articles. Is that correct, Libby?
Yeah,
or-
just, they're not motions, they're just the articles.
The articles, yeah, sorry.
The select board doesn't typically make motions on anything. So just to clarify, every article that is in the warrant now is subject to either a finance committee motion or a planning board motion. And as the chair just said, you'll wait until the planning board motions are in on all the zoning articles before you consider those. And all the rest of the articles can get handled as far as FinCom motions go at beginning today, which you just did some, and proceeding on. Some of the motions, some of the financial ones, for example, aren't quite ready for your review yet. We need to put them together and put them in front of you. And after the FinCom has made all of its motions and the planning board, the select board will make comments on some articles. They don't do it on every article. And then the whole thing gets put together in the booklet and mailed out to everybody.
And we typically wait until Seward's had a chance to look at theirs and real estate and so we typically wait until everyone's had their reviews of it before we look at those types of articles as well. And then they come and present. David Gray, for example, comes, and Ken comes because Ken loves being at FinCom. He tells me that all the time. And so then we do all those together at that standpoint. Correct? Thank you, Libby. All right. Okay. If there are no other comments, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Joe,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Denise.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.